This poem is free verse and loosely structured, which I feel was done purposefully to reflect the hectic nature of school. In the very first line of the poem, the author uses harsh language when they metaphorically refer to classwork as stress, depression, and anxiety. This grabs the listener's attention right from the start. Immediately after, in the same line, the author adds, "and then they beg us to do good on tests," which makes the first line into an obvious contrast. Later, in line 4, when the author writes, "We find ourselves stuck in a well with no Lassie to go get help," there is an allusion to the well-known old TV show Lassie. The meaning behind this line is to show how some students can feel isolated and alone in school. This poem has no shift or happy ending, and I think the author does this to imply that some students don't see any relief or end to school. I felt this poem is the voice of the generation because most of this generation is still in school to begin with, but also because now more than ever students dread school and get stressed out by the work, and even depressed if they can't produce good marks, which happens quite often. For Poem of Another Generation, I have chosen Remember When by James Huggins, because it talks about how much technology has evolved in just a few short years. Right in front of the eyes of the previous generation, how floppy disks are replaced with USB drives, and phones with access to the internet fit in your pocket. For design choice, I chose to do a bird's eye view because I found it was the best way to show how an overwhelming schoolwork can be, as all the papers on this desk are from less than 2 weeks of this semester. I chose not to add any music because it would add a certain level of comfort and consistency to the presentation, and I wanted to capture the author's vision of how hectic everything is. I included some photos on a tablet to showcase how, although it was not mentioned, technology is just another variable that adds more complexity to the whole situation. Finally, while I was reciting the poem, I purposely added a few minor mistakes to add effect to how the poem was intended to be chaotic, and my reserved use of expression was to help drive home the point of how a pile of work can strip someone of happiness and leave them in a constant monotone state.